In the midst of a wide variety of characters and themes presented within JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Steel Ball Run, a philosophy emerges that captivates readers and potentially annoys some fans. Like, yo, the true man's world arc, bro, that was crazy. Ringo's the GOAT. Yeah? Tell me why. I want to know. And don't say anything you've heard from someone else. I want to know why it's the GOAT. But this philosophy is the concept of a true man's world, championed by the mysterious gunman Ringo Again. Unlike many ideologies primarily shaped by societal or external influences, Ringo's A True Man's World concept is deeply personal, stemming from a history of profound trauma and a life lived on the edge. At its core, A True Man's World is not about a location actually, or just a tangible possession, something that we can achieve. It's a state of mind, and more so a model of self-awareness and strength that Ringo believes can only be attained through intense personal conflict, duels, and a deliberate rejection of societal norms. It represents a kind of enlightenment, a moment of epiphany where someone recognizes their true self, unshackled from the chains of societal expectations and conventions. So picture this for a moment. A world where societal benchmarks, let's say, like status, wealth, or relationships, they don't gauge every individual's worth or their being. Instead, in this ideal world by Ringo, the measure of a man lies in his ability to confront and overcome personal challenges. It's a world where both literal and metaphorical duels serves as rites of passage, which then revealing one's genuine character by shedding any artificial masks or pretenses. You know, on the face of it, A True Man's World might seem like a commendable idea, maybe even liberating, because who wouldn't want to break free some societal pressures and instead gauge on one's worth by the ability to understand yourself deeply and confront your own demons? The appeal is there, and it does promise clarity, promises purpose, and a path to realize oneself, a path to self-realization. But you don't finish Steel Ball Run wanting to follow in Ringo's footsteps, because the story's core themes go against that philosophy altogether. So to truly comprehend the intricacies of A True Man's World, we must first understand its chief proponent, Ringo Again. Now, Ringo's life was anything but fun, anything but ordinary. He was born with health complications, being fragile skin, and he was frequently unwell, like a lot, during his childhood. And his family faced hardship when his dad was drafted for war and escaped, and then later imprisoned, and then passed away due to illness. And due to circumstances beyond their control, you know, their family were labeled as outcasts because their dad had fled after getting drafted, and that led them to move frequently. And for the sake of not trying to cause a trigger in anyone's mind, I'll be rephrasing what happens. A traumatic event during his formative years forced a young Ringo to take drastic measures to protect himself. This event catalyzed the transformative moment where he discovered an inner strength where he hadn't known before. In his formative years, Ringo discovered that it was moments of life and death conflicts that's where he felt his most alive, the most himself. Ringo's realization was less about the thrill of the fight and more so about the clarity that such moments had brought him. Because honestly, you know, off script, I would think that once you survive something like this, it's probably some sort of feeling that you get just from clutching it out at that dire of a second. But in these instances, when life hangs by a thread, Ringo believed that one could glimpse just the essence, the embodiment of what a true man's world is. These traumatic incidents didn't just shape Ringo's character, but they throw him onto this path of self-reflection, challenging societal norms that had turned him to the person that he is now and made him search for true meaning. But this explanation alone hints at the idea that while Ringo believes that he's seeing more clearly than ever, it asks the question, has he really recovered? Because does the true man's world actually give you direction? That's another whole question. Now, the philosophy of a true man's world is centered around a few fundamental principles. First one is self-actualization through conflict. Ringo believes that true self-awareness and strength emerge from personal struggles, and it's not about the outcome, but the journey and the lessons derived from it. Great point. Rejection of societal norms. Ringo's worldview, societal expectations are chains that prevent individuals from realizing their true full potential. To embrace a true man's world, one must cast these aside. And that is cool for a lot, because really when it comes down to it, you're like, there are factors that do affect me, but what am I going to do if these factors are going to continue to exist? All you can do is go about it the way that you can. But yeah. And finally, duels as a rite of passage. Ringo sees these duels, both literal and metaphorically, as these essential transformative experiences. You need to duel. Stripping individuals of pretense and exposing their very core, that happens in these. You need to duel. You gotta whip out the freaking Yu-Gi-Oh deck and you gotta duel. But there's a double-edged sword to this philosophy. For Ringo, recognizing and striving for a true man's world has distinct advantages for him. It provides him with a clear purpose and direction in life. This is all he has to do. This framework offers him a sense of control in a chaotic world, allowing him to navigate challenges with conviction and clarity. He knows what he has to do. The next battle that he takes on is most likely going to be a symbol of his problems, and he must take this down with fairness and order, because you can't cheat your core issues away. The personal conflicts he seeks and embraces, fortifying his spirit and makes him resilient and unwavering in his beliefs. That's great. Sort of. Because blapping someone, how often is that going to really contribute? That's for the downsides, Adopting such a, I don't want to say rigid, but rigid worldview comes at a cost. For example, a true man's world versus altruism. Altruism emphasizes selfless acts for others' well-being. While Ringo's philosophy champions self-discovery through conflict, it often overlooks that the inherent human needs to help others. By prioritizing duels and confrontations, Ringo, let's say inadvertently, because I don't think that's his intention, inadvertently diminishes the importance of collective welfare, which can lead to a life devoid of just empathy and compassion, because who the heck is around Ringo? Think about it. But it does make sense why this would happen, as the world had failed Ringo and his family. The world goes on to continuously fail you and the ones you love. How could you care about others? I get it, but that's the exact issue with it, because there is no room for others in a true man's world. While the idea makes sense as an effect of such an upbringing, Ringo's belief would only result in hurt if taken widely. As we all can't fight each other to achieve self-actualization, that would actually make it impossible for the lot of us. In a world dictated by personal conflicts and duels, acts of genuine kindness, they get misplaced. And as it goes right now, we aren't in the Wild West, but each person in the world faces personal conflicts. Compassion and empathy have the transformative power to heal, unite, and uplift each other, And Ringo risks missing out on the deep connections and bonds that kindness and just being real can foster, because he sidelines these concepts. And the self-improvement benefits for a true man's world is that they're supposed to give you, at first glance, they're supposed to give you a path to self-improvement. But true self-improvement isn't just about facing these external challenges and taking them on as a symbolic gesture. It's about inner growth, reflection, understanding. Constant conflict can hinder introspection, stunting one's emotional and psychological development. That's why we're not really sure about how much does Ringo got going on. Ringo's emphasis on duels and confrontations can endanger not just his physical well-being, but his mental and emotional health as well. While he gains strength from these encounters, he also walks an extremely dangerous line, even with a busted ability. It's a philosophy built around conflict. And that itself is most likely capable of becoming destructive, more so self-destructive. So while a philosophy like this offers Ringo a unique lens to view life, it simultaneously restricts his perspective, because by not integrating principles like something as simple as altruism and kindness and focusing on sole personal confrontations, he most likely misses out on the fuller, more enriching experience that life has to offer. The constant pursuit of conflict while providing moments of enlightenment may also deprive him of tranquility, growth, and a deeper understanding of the human experience. If you really look at Ringo, it's emptiness, hollow. Because obsession is a double-edged sword, because while it can drive individuals to accomplish, extraordinary feats, it can consume them from the inside out, because you're not working with that much when it comes down to it. The relentless pursuit of a singular objective can lead to tunnel vision, blinding one to the beauty and nuances of a broader world. And that's one of the things that Ringo wanted you to not do. It's not about the end goal. It's supposed to be about the journey. History and fiction alike are riddled with, figures who have gone down to this path. And they've had their great moments and their pitfalls. So we learn from these pillars of history, not to just admire the good work that they've done, but, to learn that, oh, shoot, this can get pretty bad. Take into consideration, right? Vincent van Gogh, take that into consideration. The tormented genius of the post-impressionist era. Van Gogh's life was just this tumultuous canvas of passion, pain, and unmatched brilliance. Much like Ringo, his singular pursuit was his art. Van Gogh, in his intense focus and dedication, had resulted to some of the most celebrated artworks in history, yes. But this obsession came at a cost, because his mental health had deteriorated and he remained largely underappreciated during his lifetime, and that led to a tragic end. Van Gogh's life epitomizes the cost of an all-consuming passion, a world of color, creativity, but also of profound solitude and anguish. And here's who I believe helped with the concept of Ringo Wrote Again, Miyato Musashi. It sounds crazy, I swear, I know. But consider this, right? Renowned as Japan's most iconic swordsman, all right, Musashi's life was defined by duels and the relentless pursuit of the martial perfection, but also self-enlightenment. That was a huge thing for him. So his dedication had made him unbeatable in combat, but this singular focus may have come at the expense of personal connections and a settled life, because while dedicating oneself to a pursuit, even a pursuit that delves into the idea of self-improvement, it can lead to a very narrowed life experience, because in shutting out distractions, you also inadvertently shut out joy, you shut out relationships, and you shut out the very multifaceted essence of humanity and the human existence. Because while their pursuits led to moments of brilliance and self-actualization and just sheer beauty for the world to see, they also highlight the inherent dangers of not balancing one's life and the potential for missing out on the various great things that it has to offer. Now, I understand that this belief isn't the only thing that Ringo provides, for sure. I'm just making the point that there's a lot more to why Gyro is the one that comes out of this alive. Now, here's another comparison for you, right? We already had two. Afro Samurai, all right? Now, the protagonist of Afro Samurai embarks on this relentless quest driven by personal conflict. Afro's life is a series of battles. Each is a stepping stone to his ultimate goal. It's revenge for his father's death and to eventually become the one. This all-consuming desire for vengeance, it mirrors Ringo's pursuit of a true man's world, with both characters dedicating themselves entirely to their paths, often with a great personal cost. Now, why bring Afro Samurai to the mix? Well, the examples of both of him and Ringo being lonely because Afro was so lonely. No, wait, that's a spoiler. I'm not sure I can actually say that. Okay, but yeah, like Ringo's commitment to a true man's world, they both embody the archetype of this stoic shonen protagonist, even though he's a minor antagonist. Solitary, resolute and defined by a singular mission. Now, these characters symbolize a kind of hyper individualism, realistically. And it's a vision of heroism where personal growth is only achieved through conflict and adversity, which is, again, bad. Yet, in Ringo's interactions with Gyro, we see that this rugged individualism is not an end, but maybe a means for others, right? Ringo's challenge was not just about defeating Gyro, but it was about sculpting him, at least for Ringo. Ringo, in his own unique way, saw potential in Gyro, recognizing a hint of hesitation in him, and while it seemed paradoxical, Ringo's challenge to Gyro, in essence, was just this really odd way of mentorship. He wanted to fortify Gyro's resolve, knowing that in the world of the Steel Ball Run race, any hesitation is fatal. So by pushing Gyro to his absolute limits, Ringo intended to just catalyze this transformation within him, forcing Gyro to confront his own boundaries and find the determination necessary to achieve this greater objective, saving the kid, because you cannot hesitate. So their confrontation, therefore, was more than just a battle of ideals or physical prowess of any sort. It was Ringo's deliberate attempt to just improve Gyro's conviction and mold him into someone capable of making tough decisions when they matter the most. So in the most climactic moment of their confrontation, it becomes very evident that Gyro has just not surpassed Ringo in terms of combat, but transcended the philosophy of a true man's world. While Ringo's belief system emphasizes individual strength and determination, it's Gyro's holistic worldview, one that integrates both personal strength and communal bonds, that proves to be superior at the end of it, because he does essentially accept this help by everyone, and Ringo indirect. Like, Ringo really did want to help Gyro, if we're being honest about it. So Johnny, on the other hand, exists as someone who has lived in a true man's world, but was given a way out due to the compassion and help given to him by someone who was once a stranger to him. As Ringo meets his end, he has this profound realization, and he tells us, "Welcome to a true man's world." Because we've reached that point, but that's all Ringo knows. He's capped off. That's where the true man's world realistically ends. That path is where Ringo stays, and that's all he's ever going to be capable of. Johnny and Gyro transcend the philosophy, but will still continue to find battles that will put their character into question, because you don't really know if you're going to leave with all your problems solved. With that in mind, all you can do is live and live with resolve, because one finds true significance in existence and the continuous act of living, of facing each day with unwavering determination and the willingness to adapt and grow. In this journey, it's not about overcoming obstacles, but about the lessons learned from it, the bonds forged from it, and the legacy that leaves behind, so that future members of society continue this journey. Thank you all for watching. Hopefully I'll see you on the next one. If you want more Steel Ball Run videos, make sure to interact. If you're already here, somehow you got to the end of it, but make sure to interact. I'm surprised. But again, hopefully I'll see you on the next one. Until then, peace out and Godspeed.